Why we need responsible innovation. Now, high on a mountain above the city of Oslo in Norway, you can see the strange angular shape of Holmenkollbakken, which is the famous ski jump site which has dominated the horizon since 1892. In its current form, designed and built to host the 1952 Winter Olympics and continually upgraded, it offers a terrifying glimpse of over 100 meters of cold, thin air before you land. Which makes it a great metaphor for innovation. Exciting, full of promise, but also seriously uncertain and unpredictable. It's also a great location for a conference, as I discovered visiting to speak at the Afino event recently. It's an event which brings together researchers and practitioners concerned with the challenges around what has come to be called responsible innovation. Now, the aim was to look at the concept and how it's changed over time, and also to look ahead to challenges in the future. Which got me thinking and wondering out loud in my keynote about where we have got to. Well, looking back, it's a bit misty, like the cloud which periodically wrapped itself around us at the conference. If we take a loose definition of responsible innovation, it's about thinking through and trying to anticipate the unexpected in innovation, the potential downsides or the hidden angles to the picture we see when innovation emerges. To pause for thought before we plunge headlong into the exciting new world that's opened up. Going back to our ski jump metaphor, to look before we leap. Now, today's very visible example, of course, is AI, and you don't have to look far to realize that this incredibly powerful technology comes with a lot of baggage. Not a day goes by without, on the one hand, new announcements about the huge potential of the technology, but on the other, the very real challenges it's throwing up around ethics, skills and employment, privacy, intellectual property, and 100 other concerns. Now, we've always been worried about the unwanted implications of technology, and that's, of course, a healthy concern. Think about the Luddites way back in the days of the Industrial Revolution. Now, they weren't a bunch of mindless vandals smashing up machines just for fun. They were trying to focus attention on serious concerns about skills, working conditions, and other employment-related issues around the technological progress of the time. Fast forward to the 20th century, and change management is a big concern. Introducing innovation into factories and offices isn't without its complications, and workers seem capable of being really creative in the ways in which they can resist it. So there's a need to think through the implications of technological change and try to ameliorate negative effects, head trouble off at the pass. But it's not a one-sided thing. Evidence also accumulated around the idea that if you involve users of new technology, the employees, if you involve them early enough, they can also offer insights which not only smooth acceptance, but make for a better design of that innovation. From coal mining to clothing to computer systems, institutions like the Tavistock Institute and many others with their socio-technical systems approach paved the way for more participative ways of introducing technological change. Now, these concerns about thinking through the implications of innovation operate at macro scale as well. And during the last century, there was a growing focus on thinking through the challenges posed by some pretty big ticket items affecting the future of the planet. Pollution, resource depletion, sustainability, and so on. Again, the conversation was not all about ostrich emulation, burying our heads in the sand and hoping the problem will go away. Nor was it trying to turn back the clock. It was around enabling concerned conversations to try and influence progress in responsible directions. What organisations like the Club of Rome and many other think tanks did, it was really about getting to the need for a wider debate, for more anticipation, more thinking ahead about how to navigate the negative aspects of technological change. Responsible innovation. Nor was it all just rhetoric. This was the era in which many research groups were founded, taking an interdisciplinary look at these challenges and, importantly, developing a toolkit to help us work with thinking about the future. So where are we now? Well, the present day, we've probably got considerable cause to celebrate. Responsible innovation, masquerading under many different labels over time, has now become highly visible in conversations about innovation. Whether we're looking at AI or genetic engineering or geoengineering to influence the climate, we can see issues being widely debated and discussed. Organisations, public and private, are increasingly measured on their commitment to thinking and acting responsibly in terms of key themes like sustainability and their social responsibilities. And this, of course, has prompted a growth industry around helping develop strategy statements and corporate positions in the responsible innovation space, and in making sure this image is widely promoted. So, responsible innovation has moved centre stage. And it's not just words. There are now regulations enacted to control the rate and the direction of innovative activity and its adoption. There are multiple research journals exploring the issues raised. There are toolkits, consultants able to deploy them. There's even an international standard around it. So responsible innovation is very much part of the fabric of innovation thinking in 2024. Which is where the problem comes in. By moving centre stage, responsible innovation becomes something impossible to disagree with. It's a slogan which hangs there above us, an important and good thing, along with motherhood and apple pie. The risk is we swap slogan for substance. Responsible innovation becomes a bit of a religion to which we all pay lip service. Try and imagine any organisation today, public or private, talking about irresponsible innovation, or its disregard for sustainability and the future of the planet. It's impossible. The words are everywhere, but the meaning and action may often be missing. So, if we're serious about responsible innovation, we need to look more closely at what it is and how we can act on it. One more time, what does responsible innovation mean on the ground? Well, Richard Owen and Jack Stilgoe have done a great job in synthesizing the long-running discussion around responsible innovation into a simple framework with 4 key dimensions. 4 dials, if you like, which we should regularly check on our innovation dashboard. The first, anticipation. Do we look ahead? Do we question and explore? Keep in mind the design space which we have before things get closed down into a dominant design or a technological trajectory. And responsiveness. How far can we create that design space, make choice possible rather than assume a technology-driven logic? How far can we open up the design space and keep it open? Now, digital technology is a great example here, because software can be rapidly reshaped and adapted. There's no fixed point at which the innovation freeze comes in. And then there's reflexiveness. How far are we prepared to challenge ourselves and reflect, to explore and adopt different approaches? And last, but certainly not least, inclusiveness. How far are we prepared to and able to bring in the insights and concerns of many different stakeholders? Now, there's plenty of research evidence to support the view that doing these things is socially responsible, but also it's becoming clear that it makes good business sense. Let's take the example of inclusiveness and explore just a little further how this plays out in practice. Why on earth should we bother with stakeholders, that user dimension? Well, very clearly, because users are key players in innovation. First of all, they're sources of innovation, sometimes as heroes, pioneering new-to-the-world ideas. We wouldn't have disposable nappies, skateboards, pickup trucks, or ice cream cones, plus a host of other innovations, if it weren't for the pioneering efforts of users to bring these to life. Indeed, the smartphone on which we might search for other examples is itself a user innovation, or at least the Linux software powering it is, because that's the results of the efforts of a community of frustrated programmers, users. In fact, research suggests that a significant proportion, 20% or more of products, even more of processes, begin life as user ideas and are then developed and commercialized. So users are creators, but they're also adapters, improvers, hackers. They don't simply accept innovations. They want them to work in their context. So whether it's farmers modifying their Model T Fords to make them pay their way on the farm, or mountain bike fanatics pioneering new designs to give even higher performance, users are beavering away across the product and service spectrum to enhance things. And it's the same in our workplaces. We constantly tinker with and adapt the processes with which we work, coming up with little hacks and workarounds to make life easier. Companies which tap into these suggestions via online collaboration platforms regularly report millions of dollars in savings as a result of capturing and implementing user ideas. It's human nature. Think of your own experience and the many daily hacks that you implement, the workarounds that you develop to solve your problems. Now, users have a high incentive to innovate. They want change, and they're prepared to tolerate failure and ambiguity. They'll take prototypes on the road towards improving things. Frustration and excitement are very human and very powerful drivers of innovation. Of course, not every user wants to be a hero innovator, the kind of person who comes up with an idea and then fights their way through to making it happen. People like James Dyson, whose frustration with his vacuum cleaner led him, via 5 years and over 5,000 discarded prototypes, to develop the bagless cleaner which bears his name. Or Tal Goldsworthy, whose life-threatening heart condition gave him the incentive to design and then have implanted a new kind of heart valve. But many other users are prepared to interact, co-create incremental innovations as they use them. That's why software developers place so much stress on beta testing and other ways of mobilizing a community of user insights. Other users might have insights and ideas, but they're locked up. They know stuff which might be highly relevant. The challenge here is to find ways to listen to those voices and work with those ideas. But beyond this idea of users as a source to help improve the design of innovations, there's another key reason why they're important. As adopters, or as proxies for those who will adopt. The barrier to any innovation success is moving it to scale, from the prototype and the early launch to widespread diffusion. The familiar S-curve is crucially where we need to think, not just at the front end. And here, decades of innovation research converge on a clear message. Adopters won't always take on something new, even if it has considerable potential advantage for them. A key factor is the idea of compatibility. How well does the innovation fit their world? Now, whether it's Washington Carver trying to persuade rural farmers in Alabama to adopt new seed types or different farming methods, or Brownie Wise explaining the virtues of Tupperware to 1950s housewives, the story's the same. Users need to be convinced that innovations will fit into their world, otherwise they'll ignore them. So it makes sense to listen to users and their concerns early, because if these can be addressed, the chances of widespread adoption downstream are much improved. Early users are the vanguard for the rest. So all of this user discussion creates significant opportunity for innovating organizations. It's what Eric von Hippel and colleagues call free innovation, by which they mean that where conventional innovation processes try and assume what the market wants and often limit their activity to playing safe rather than exploring uncertain new market territory, user-linked innovation offers them a key to unlock this potential. Better still, most users are not primarily motivated to scale their innovations. Their incentive is around solving their own problem. If others can benefit, well, that's a bonus. So it looks like a no-brainer. Involve users because you get more ideas, uncertainty reduction, ambassadors for diffusion, and faster and more compatible downstream adoption. And yet, the picture's often one in which the rhetoric of user involvement is certainly there, but it's undermined by the reality of inaction on the ground. There's the perception that involving users will somehow slow the process, inhibit that agile nature of today's competitive innovation process. So we end up with a paradox. On the one hand, user inclusion offers so much free innovation advantage. But on the other, there's this perception that the costs of engaging with users, time and money and so on, outweigh the benefits. So, is responsible innovation free? Well, it's worth looking briefly at this paradox in a little more detail, and there are some useful historical parallels. Back in the last century, the idea of quality was seen as a compromise. You get what you pay for. If you want perfection, it's going to cost. But a quiet revolution took place, which moved us from a world in the 1960s where acceptable levels of defects were assumed and often measured in percentage terms, and where even the rocket systems designed to keep us safe were patchy at best in terms of reliability. One report suggesting that in 1950 only 30% of the US Navy's electronics devices were actually working properly at any given time. Now that of course has moved to today's world where zero defects is the aspiration, and where tools like Six Sigma and the huge mindset and skill changes amongst employees to deploy those tools have meant that we can consistently achieve parts per million levels of problem. Quality is now the standard, deviate from it if you dare. Now that revolution has something in common with our responsible innovation question around inclusiveness of users. One of the architects of the quality revolution was someone called Philip Crosby, who worked tirelessly to promote a different message about the importance and achievability of quality. His message was simple, and the book that he wrote had the highly relevant title, Quality is Free. By which he didn't mean that implementing the systems and training to enable high quality performance was free, but rather that the investment in doing so was dwarfed by the savings associated with reducing the cost of quality. He drew attention to the fact that the real costs of quality were not just in the staff and admin costs associated with running a quality system, but the long list of other associated costs, from wasted materials which had to be scrapped, wasted time in producing things people didn't want, dealing with unhappy customers who you spent a lot to acquire and now who are deserting the company in droves and telling their friends. All these and many others were real and significant costs. In fact, in 1984, when IBM first began looking at the cost of quality problem, they estimated that $2 billion of their $5 billion of profit was due to improved quality, particularly around not having to fix errors that they'd already made. Because the real cost of quality arises when you don't pay attention to it. Just as history reminds us that the real cost of non-inclusion of users and other stakeholders arises when you don't take their concerns into account. It's a double loss. You miss out on their ideas and you fail to get acceptance and widespread diffusion. So perhaps the time has come for us to reconsider the business case for responsible innovation, just like in the last century we rethought the business case for quality. And maybe we need to rebuild the equations which decision makers use when considering whether or not to invest in working alongside users. The good news is, of course, that there are many tools and methods for doing so, and an increasing number of enabling methodologies and spaces in which to work. Much more in the way of experience. We do know how to work with users to create more responsible solutions with them. So the challenge now is whether we're prepared to commit to doing so.